Alex, we've got 5 minutes on the clock, ready for another opt-in where we're going to be discussing the webinar that we did with Adrienne Chen of Noted Marketing, going over some of the nuances of the health tech space, how some of the strategies around go-to-market are a bit different there than in other industries within the SaaS space like cybersecurity or fintech or whatever. Went into a lot of different reasons as to how you need to change up your strategy to actually see success in this space. Lindsay and Adrienne went through a bunch of great points for organizations out there looking to penetrate this market. Would love to get a couple of takeaways from you. What did you find most insightful as someone who I don't think has ever prospected into this space?
I have not. You're right. Yeah, I did find that interesting. Just a little background. My time as an SDR was spent mostly with big data technology. I did like a little bit of side help for one of our healthcare clients, but I don't think that really counts. But one of the takeaways I thought was really insightful for me, and I learned from it, is how long the sales cycle and the nurture process can be with a lot of healthcare technologies and clients and people you sell into on really the payer and provider side. I also learned that there's all these, it's a very complicated network, this healthcare thing. So there's a lot of nuances that you and I won't dive into right here, but are talked about plenty in the webinar. But the example Lindsay gave that really stood out to me, and I think I have a vague memory of it happening, was that there was an SDR who spent 3 years just continuing to reach out, being multi-threaded, doing all the right things, knew it was a target account, didn't hear a word from anyone there until 3 years into it. Finally, someone responded, it turned into a lead, and the process went that way. And that's just shocking to me. Like, most SDRs don't spend 3 years in the role, let alone reaching out to one target account like without a single response. But it was just really eye-opening to see, like, sometimes in certain industries you really do have to push the limit, go in a totally different direction, or really spend more time on something than you think you would in your typical sort of SaaS B2B sales SDR process.
For sure. And I think it actually segues pretty nicely into the big takeaway that I had from it, was this idea that, like, you need to not just be multi-channel in your outreach and ensure that, like, you're targeting prospects on phone, email, social, yada, yada, sort of all the channels we know, but you have to do it in what Adrienne described as a surround sound way, which I thought was a really good way of sort of depicting how you need to effectively set your team up to get into these, like, sometimes massive accounts with tons of stakeholders that, like, to your point, are probably locked in a contract for like 3 years with whatever platform that they're using currently, or have relationships built with tons of other organizations that they talk to on a fairly regular basis. Maybe not in a sales conversation aspect, but like just back and forth, like delivering value in the interim between when they have a contract and when they won't have a contract. And so as a rep, aligning with your sort of sales leadership, with marketing, with your demand gen team, and ensuring that when you're reaching out to an account, it isn't just like, all right, I'm going to grab the 3 most important looking people and then reach out to them and try to start a conversation there. At most of these organizations, they have tons of departments that act independently of one another, and you have to find stakeholders within those and hit them with sales, marketing, all types of messaging about what you do and the value that you bring, so that over the course of a year, 2, 3 years, you build up enough of a name and brand recognition with them. You keep carving out space in their brains for like what you do, so that when the time comes where they're actively looking for something, you're top of mind. The rep that you talked about internally here probably did a great job of that, of continually relaying value of like, when your contract is up, we're here, we're going to be ready, we're the best solution for you, and here's why. And you do that enough to the point where someone's like, yeah, you're right. Like, I see the value that you're bringing here, and I have the opportunity to evaluate other solutions. Why not bring you guys in as well? So yeah, I think that's like a good overall idea of like how to see success in this space. That's vastly different from like other SaaS industries that we typically work with.
Yeah, and to that point, the thing that, like I mentioned just now, it's a complex thing to sell into any sort of healthcare payer provider system, and making sure that messaging that brings value, not just brings value, but also aligns with each other, right? If you're reaching out to someone on the marketing team about your product, but you also need to reach out to someone on the financial side of things about the same product, maybe there's some sort of connection there, you're sending them different messages, right? Because you know the values are going to be different for them, but you also still need to make sure that they line up, especially because at larger organizations especially, they might not even know each other as people. So that force them to interact in a way that they don't normally in their day-to-day business, it's so much easier to do that if you can get them both aligned and both interested, right, in the conversation, but in the same area of the conversation, so that you don't have them both on a handover and then one of them was like, oh, well, we spent 30 minutes talking about their thing. We didn't spend any time talking about my thing. I'm no longer interested. So, that alignment throughout the process, like you said, of the messaging along with, targeting the right individuals across an organization. It sounds daunting, but listening to the full webinar, there are a lot of solutions and things you can do to make sure you do it. But it definitely is something you should take care in the process of.
All right, AJ, 15 seconds. Tell everybody about opt-in.
Opt-in, quick 5-ish minute videos, actionable sales development tips, minimal fluff. You can find us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on our Instagram, and on the website, demanddrive.com.
Plunged into darkness.
Plunge is a funny word.
Alex could never be a plumber.
Yeah, let me go grab my plunger.